15 through verse 22, which says, and from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 complete Sabbaths. That's actually what we've done, right? Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, which is right now, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahweh. Bring from your dwellings for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. They are baked with leaven, first fruits to Yahweh. And besides the bread, you shall bring 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and 1 young bull and 2 rams. They are a ascending offering to Yahweh, with their grain offering and their drink offerings, an offering made by fire for a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And you shall offer 1 male as a sin offering, and 2 male lambs a year old as a slaughter of peace offering. The priest shall wave them besides the bread of the first fruits as a wave offering before Yahweh, besides the 2 lambs. They are set apart to Yahweh for the priests. And on this same day you shall proclaim a set apart gathering for yourselves. You shall do no servile work on it, a law forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your fields. When you reap, and do not gather any gleaning from your harvest, leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So right there we have the command that's given to us for the Feast of Weeks, Shavuot. And so when we think about Shavuot, Shavuot really gives us a picture of transition from raw ingredients to something that's transformed into something else. Right? When we think about the feasts, there's always a agricultural significance. So when we look at when we started the count tomorrow after the Sabbath, when you start counting, 50 days ago, 7 weeks and a day ago, that was the barley harvest. Well, it was the first fruits of the barley harvest. So you took a raw ingredient. So you started the count with a raw ingredient. You didn't do anything with it. You just took it, you cut it up just like it was, and you waved that, the wave sheaf offering. And so over here on the wheat harvest, which is Shavuot, you take this raw ingredient and then you make bread. So you took a raw ingredient and then you transformed that ingredient into this other thing, right? And so when we think about Shavuot, then like I said, it's giving you that picture of transformation, right? Going from one thing to another thing, going from one state to a completely other state. If I'm just like an unlearned person and I look at that bread over there, that's what I see is bread, right? But inside of it is, I don't know what's in it, flour, eggs, water, sugar, salt, there's sesame seeds, just all those things. Oil, butter. I heard the conversation between oil and butter in there, right? There's all these different ingredients that's in that thing. But when I look at it, I don't see the ingredients, I just see some bread. It's just bread over there, right? It's a thing that has been transformed. It's no longer that other thing that it was before, right? It's no longer flour. It's no longer salt and what all of those things. Now it's this one complete transformed thing. And so when we think about us and Shavuot and what it kind of pictures for us is, if we look at Passover as being that time when we made a decision, right? At Passover, you chose the Most High, you chose Him, you decided that that's going to be your Elohim, and you did what you had to do in order to receive His, to not be taken by the death angel, right? You put that blood on your doorposts. You made a choice. You made a decision, right? And that decision got you to the foot of the mountain. That decision that you made over there got you to the foot of the mountain where the Most High gave His law, statutes, and commandments. And so when we think about Shavuot as being that time when the law, statutes, and commandments come down, what it does in us is it changes us, right? When we get that law in our hearts, His character becomes our character. So we become transformed. We go from being that thing that we used to be over there, and all of these different parts, these things that make us up, to being infused by the Spirit and changed and transformed. And so when we think about Shavuot and how it relates to us, it's about transformation, right? And there's room for all of us to be transformed more and more, right? So what I've been saying all of this time is that, Shavuot's about refinement. It's about spiritual refinement. It's about going from one state to the next. Maybe you not completely raw ingredients at this point. Maybe you've been in the oven for a little bit baking, or maybe you just been in the bowl proofing, right? You ain't baked yet. You just proofing in there. You swelling up, right? But it's a different kind of swell up. It's a swell up that we like, right? Not that sin, but that spirit inside of you, right? Overtaking you, right? Because remember when we read over here, this bread over here is baked with leaven. We got something in us that causes us to grow, right? That's Ruach, that spirit that's inside of us. But as it grows, right, it's pushing that sin stuff, that carnality out of the way, right? We put that little, I'm saying I ain't never cooked no bread a day in my life, right? But when you put that stuff in the bowl, it takes up all of the space in the bowl, right? It fills the thing all the way up, right? Where you got to go in there, and, you push it down, right? You work it a little bit, and then it just grows some more. And right, so when we think about that from a spiritual perspective, in terms of us being spiritually refined, we got to go through some things. We got to allow some things to go on in our situation where different sins become apparent to us, that we get to a place where there's no more room for those sin things in our bowl. That stuff gets pushed out, right? And when we think about this process from raw ingredients to that transformed place over there at Shavuot, that's what the process is about. It's about refining. It's about looking at yourself, being honest with yourself and with your own situation, and knowing that, I got like these 5 things that I shouldn't even be doing, right? That these things need to be erased, right, from my situation. During this time, we were supposed to be looking at these things and figuring out how to get rid of these things, and asking for the Father to strengthen us so that we're able to move past these things, right? Because again, Shavuot's about spiritual refinement. It's about going from that raw, uncut state to a refined, transformed, unrecognizable state. Like we supposed to be in a place that's so different from what you was at before that you don't even know. Like I gotta sit up here and get the list to know what that used to be. I can see what it is now, but what it used to be should be unrecognizable. And from a spiritual perspective, that's what our situation should be. You know, people, you should roll up on people and they see you and they knew you way back when, and then they can't even believe the person that you are now because they remember from over there because of the transformation, because of the fact that you've been changed. And so when we think about this whole thing with Shavuot and what this kind of signifies for us, it kind of puts us in a place of no return, right? Because once you done got to this place over here with this bread, you can't go backwards now. How you go back? How you pick out the salt from the bread or the sugar or whatever? How do you differentiate the different parts and pieces that's in there?
The yeast that made it is dead.
Yeah, all of that. How do you get to those parts and pieces, right? Shavuot brings us to a place of transformation where those old parts and pieces that we were is gone, right? And again, Shavuot's about the Spirit being poured out onto His people. When we look in the scriptures and we see, like Peter, for instance, when we see the person who Peter became and who he was with Yeshua prior to the Spirit being poured out, you see two different guys over there. You see this guy who was like, you know, he had to see it for himself. Like he was, you know, he sat up there and swore that he was going to be there for the master and he was never going to deny him. You crazy? I will never deny you. And then as soon as the time came, that's just what he did. But we see the transformation of Peter, and the main ingredient is that Ruach HaKodesh. And so Shavuot is about that Spirit in you, changing you and transforming you and taking you from one state to the other. And we're not even talking about people who just coming in the door and just now starting a relationship. We're talking about people who've been doing this, living this life, and we're constantly growing and changing and becoming closer to the Father and becoming more and more like Yeshua as the Spirit grows inside of us. And so what I like to do on Shavuot, because it is about a harvest, it is about bringing these bread loaves, and we're going to wave the bread, but also I like to look at our own selves as bread, and we wave our own selves and show in our own selves how, you know, the thing that we've harvested from the Most High. And so what I would like to have you do, as it is a custom that we have been doing, is, you know, you come up here and you talk about your growth from last year to now. Because if you're not growing, actually, you dead, right? If you're not growing, then there's a problem, right? There has to be some growth. And so we want to be able to give thanks to the Most High for what He's been able to do for us and in us from last year until now. And then that in of itself is a way for you to take your spiritual loaf and wave that before the Father. We have our picture over there, like what the ladies and what the kids did over there. That's the picture, but the spiritual significance of that is what is your offering that you bring within your own situation. Like, what does your loaf look like? I'm saying that's what Shavuot is about. It's about spiritual refinement. It's about dealing with the decision that we made. Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread is about that decision, and Shavuot's about that covenant being bound and bonded together with the Father, and the Most High then beginning to grow you and change you and mold you in his will and in his way.